Welcome to a brand new edition of Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. It is officially fantasy football season. It is officially the NFL preseason, and you have good news for those of you streaming us today, watching, consuming, however you're doing it. George and I are going to break down everything that's going on and get you ready for your upcoming fantasy football drafts. George, it's great to be back with you here once again on a new edition of the show. We're going to recap some of the fantasy football implications from what we saw on Thursday night, and of course get into a lot of the upcoming games and players and division matchups this weekend. Thanks again for joining me to be part of our extravaganza this year.
This is a fun time of year for me, right? I mean, we all love fantasy football. We love fantasy baseball as well. And I'm a fantasy hockey guy. Love fantasy time. It's almost like every night, Craig, all I'm doing is, all right, who am I going to draft in my home league at 11th? Who I think is going to be there? Should I go quarterback? It's a super flex league. Should I go the top player available here? I'm always doing that every night. Last night, I joined another best ball league. I'm in like 12 of these things already. Whenever I'm bored, I go join a best ball league. You know, it's not the same as a regular fantasy league, but hey, it is a draft here that lets me get involved here and figure things out here. So I love fantasy time.
Yeah, great time of the year. And also, we're going to have ESPN's Field Yates come on the show in just a little bit to break down who he thinks are the big sleepers in the upcoming fantasy football season. But first, before we get to that, let's get to some of our top stories on this week's edition of the show. We'll start off with the preseason game that started off with not a bang and ended with less of one for the Indianapolis Colts, George. My goodness, at quarterback. Feels like they have an issue. I don't even know if they have one. Well, good news for Anthony Richardson. He left the game yesterday with a dislocated pinky. That was the bad news. The good news is looks like he's going to be back at practice and maybe even able to play in next week's game. Daniel Jones, though, expected to start for the Colts next week. Also, good news for Matthew Stafford. He is expected to be back at practice Monday, although, George, from what I am reading, he's going to test his back on Monday. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves there. Keenan Allen is back as a member of the Chargers. A lot of people in the community say that could hurt one of their wide receivers in Ladd McConkey. I don't know if you feel that way. We'll dive into that too. But it does seem to me, George, that we're going to see quite a few starters during the preseason. Feels like the number to me, George, in terms of fantasy, about 25, 30%. So I'll take that. Feels like in every game we're just going to see a few play here or there. And then my guess is next week it's all systems go. But let's start with the Colts, George, because I think that's probably the hot topic right now. We didn't really see a lot of Ravens yesterday play. We did see the Colts. I didn't think Richardson looked that good, and then he left the game. Daniel Jones came in. I didn't think he looked that good. I mean, I guess Colts quarterbacking hasn't really been that good for a few years anyway, but I don't know that either one of these guys are going to fit the bill long term.
Oh, I think... Listen, Richardson is still incredibly young, so I don't want to give up on him long term yet, but I certainly lean your direction. All right, we haven't seen all that much that's all that impressive about Richardson here. Not all that worried about the dislocated pinky. You can play through that. Roger Staubach for the Hall of Fame. If you look at his hand, his pinky's permanently, the other way. It's gross. When you look at his hand, he dislocated it several times here, so you can play through it here. That's not going to be his issue. His issue is, can he get the ball down the field accurately? And I don't know. All right, I don't think Daniel Jones is your long-term answer. He's just someone that, in case Richardson can't get it done, you have someone serviceable at quarterback this season. All right, fantasy-wise, listen, do I want much of Michael Pittman? No. Josh Downs? No. Later in my draft, fine. I am interested in Tyler Warren. All right, I think he's going to be a valuable tight end. Big target, close to the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to get a lot of play, Craig. So I do have Warren as far as my lower top 10. I think I have him at 9 overall here. So he's someone I'm interested in. Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of play. But come on, Craig. You were right with defensive coordinator. I'm not letting Jonathan Taylor beat me. There's 8 men in the box. All right, you stop Mr. Taylor. Force Richardson, force Daniel Jones to get that ball over the top and beat me.
Ashton Dulin played a big part in the Colts offense on Thursday night. Looked like Daniel Jones was leaning on him quite a bit. We'll see if that carries over to the regular season. Meanwhile, George, I've kind of made it clear on the show here, and I understand, Matthew Stafford's going to be back. He's going to practice and all this stuff. And I hear folks in the community, George, by the way, saying that Sean McVay is pretty honest about injuries and about his players. Why do I totally disagree? I thought he was like the last guy that I agree with. I mean, we went into a Super Bowl and spent 2 weeks talking about Todd Gurley playing, and he spent the Super Bowl on a bike. I'm not buying anything until I see him actually practice and actually play And if I'm in a super flex league of 2 quarterbacks and I have Stafford and Garoppolo is there, it's not sexy, but I'm picking him up. George, I at least until I see him play in week 1, I have to take that approach. And by the way, I'm doing that because the Rams offense is good. Kyron Williams, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, there's a lot of weapons there. I mean, Jimmy G, when at his best in San Francisco, was still a startable flex quarterback, startable 2 quarterback league guy. That's my approach here. I'm going to wait this out.
Oh, you're 1,000% correct here on everything you said. Stafford, when healthy, with that offense, is a top 10 quarterback. All right, he'll finish top 10. He'll throw his touchdown passes and all that. But if you're drafting Stafford, it doesn't matter if it's super flex or not. If it's in a 1 quarterback league, you have to draft another quarterback. You don't have a choice here. He's not going to play 17 games. My over-under for him would probably be 12.5, 13.5, somewhere around there about how many games he plays here. If you're in a super flex, you have to draft Jimmy Garoppolo along with Stafford and another quarterback, of course. Because you're in a super flex league, you can start 2 quarterbacks. If you're in a 1 quarterback league, you're not drafting Jimmy G. There should be another decent quarterback out there, 17th, 18th overall, you can grab there to cover yourself for the injury here. Now, once again, that's always league dependent. I don't know every league here. It used to be, Craig, you and I have been playing fantasy forever. Back in the day, people drafted 1 quarterback, that was it. Your quarterback went down, you can go grab another good one off the wire. Nowadays, it's a little different. People do draft a backup quarterback. So you might have, at the end of your draft, 22, 23, 24 quarterbacks gone, even in a 1 quarterback league, as people do draft quarterbacks here to cover themselves more injuries nowadays here. So you're going to be very careful. I love Matthew Stafford when he plays, but like I said, he's not playing every week. He's just not. And yeah, the back, the epidural, whatever he's going on there. And I don't believe McVay either, by the way.
At all.
I mean, listen, what do I like? You know what I like to say. Can I say it, by the way? He used to make fun of me.
You do it. Go ahead.
All right. When can you tell a coach is lying? When his lips move, okay? They're all lying, especially in early August.
No, and no disrespect, McVay's an amazing coach, but he's one of the bigger liars out there. How could anybody say that do you remember the whole Cam Akers? I mean, how great was Cam Akers going to be until he got rid of him like 3 weeks? I mean, come on. That's
why I was laughing when you said it, because it brought up last year all over again when you were complaining about him a whole last year.
It's every year with him, and you can trust, and Cooper Kupp too. You could trust McVay in life to coach your team and do an awesome job, and I'm sure he's a great guy. But for fantasy, absolutely not. This is not somebody that I trust. Travis Hunter is going to play offense and defense, according to Liam Cohen, on Saturday. This is another intriguing fantasy player that I want to see play. Maybe the most interesting player actually playing on Saturday is Hunter. And my guess is they're going to try to feed him often. It seems like Cohen indicated, George, they're going to play Trevor Lawrence too. So I would look for that connection at some point during that game.
I said, I don't watch much preseason or care about much preseason, with the exception of guys coming back from injuries and players like this. Yeah, I want to see Travis Hunter, what he's going to do. I believe I saw today that he's going to start at wide receiver but be a backup cornerback. I don't know if that means he plays the second snap, third snap, whatever it might be. But yeah, I'm curious to see this, see how they're going to work it out. And I don't know if Saturday's going to really tell us anything. It's a start. I think they'll change things around here. They're going to keep us guessing anyway through the regular season, how much he's going to play on one side of the ball or the other. But it does look like if you're drafting him, you're safe at wide receiver. You're in an IDP, I guess, could be a little different at cornerback there.
Right.
But I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him as well.
Well, coming up next, if you want to overreact, we're going to overreact to the Indianapolis Colts. So I can't wait for us to do that after one preseason game. But the best thing about this fantasy football season is you can watch our shows all week and weekend long right on SportsGrid. In fact, what I recommend you do is take out your phone and scan that QR code. It's available for iOS and Android, a great streaming companion for the entire NFL season. It is the SportsGrid app, and you can download it now. George and I will be back right after this quick break, taking a look at the 2025 Indianapolis Colts. Stay with us here on the Grid.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where you draft a quarterback number 3 overall. yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? Second in the Open Championship, fourth, plays great in majors, almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat, wrestling style. He didn't just win, he murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. We now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth in the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it, I do. Sometimes I get caught up in the Padres because of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. As we cook through week 1 of the NFL preseason, we did see the Indianapolis Colts play last night, and they do lead off our fantasy football previews this season, George. And the Colts certainly sort of running it back here a little bit with a little bit of an exception, and that is, of course, at the quarterback, which is the most popular position in professional sports, including fantasy. But let's just make the assumption that Anthony Richardson beats out Daniel Jones for the starting job. By the way, George, I'm not willing to make that assumption. I think Daniel Jones is going to start for the Colts this season. That's just my opinion, feeling basically how the organization has run things in the past with Phillip Rivers starting and Jeff Saturday being coach. Do not underestimate this team for the way that they do things. Anyway, but for the time being, for purposes of this show, let's say it's Richardson. Jonathan Taylor's RB10 at running back. We've got Pittman, Josh Downs, and then you mentioned a guy who I like a lot in Tyler Warren. Now, let me say one thing before I turn it over to you, George, on Tyler Warren, okay? So I am 52 years old. I'm a little bit younger than you. And I don't play video games. But my son did get that college football game 25 that I played a lot last year. And let me tell you something. All I did was play with Penn State and throw it to this guy Warren over and over, and this guy catches every ball and score. It was incredible, man. He was the best player, I think, at that position in that game. So why do I mention this? I'm with you, man. Throw it to this guy as much as you can. You don't even have two accurate downfield throwers in Jones or Richardson. I like where you're thinking here. He's tight end 13. I don't know that he's going to be the Bowers of the season. I'm not ready to go there, but I think he's being drafted way too low.
Listen, I'm a Cowboy fan. I wanted the Cowboys to grab him. All right. I would have liked them to be Cowboys. So that's how much I feel about Tyler Warren. I think he's going to be a really good player here. When it comes to tight ends, especially on teams that don't have great quarterbacks, well, tight end is your best friend. He's generally running routes up the middle of the field, close to the line of scrimmage. He's a huge target, usually. So he's a quarterback's best friend. He can spot him pretty easily here. So, yeah, I think Warren's going to have a nice season here. I have it number 9. So I have his, even in a 10-team league, a tight end 1. I'll take a shot on him. I mean, he's just sort of in that quagmire with a bunch of others. Ferguson of Dallas comes to mind here. Whatever you think of Cortland Loveland, who I kind of like with Chicago as well. They're all in that same category here. What you said about Anthony Richardson is true. I like Superflex leagues. That means the leagues where you can start 2 quarterbacks. You don't have to, but you can start a second quarterback. And I got to tell you, I don't know if Richardson or Daniel Jones is going to make the cut. They're not in my top 25. They'll both be drafted. Every quarterback with a pulse gets drafted in the Superflex because, hey,
Right.
you're going to need a third one to at least cover for buys, but they won't be started. So that's going to be a big issue here. You said you think Daniel Jones starts. I'm not going to argue with you. I think they both start. I think they have to find out about Richardson. So assuming that the Pinky is healthy, he's going to have to start eventually. All right. But if I was to break it down, I think it'll be, 10-7, Richardson, Jones. I still think it'll matter. I don't know if either one's really the answer here, but they paid Jones a lot of money, and they didn't pay him that to be a backup. So he's there to at least push Jones, at least push Richardson there. I said earlier about Taylor, I love Jonathan Taylor, but he's going to face a lot of 8-man boxes. The Rich can back those guys off. So he's a running back one, but he's a lower end running back one, second round pick for me here. The wide receivers are more wide receiver threes for me. I know they'll have big weeks at times. Someone's got to catch the ball. But I keep saying the only pass catcher I'm really interested in that I'll be targeting or circling or highlighting on my draft list is Tyler Warren.
How many quarterbacks on the Colts can you name since Andrew Luck, George, retired? How many quarterbacks can you name that started? Just a little trivia here before we go to Houston.
Flacco, right? He screwed the Giants. He had a bad game. Of course, the number one pick. I don't know. I'm not going to try this. I'm bad at these things.
Matt Ryan?
Oh, would not have forgot about him. Would not have gotten him.
Phillip Rivers?
Rivers I might have gotten. I didn't know he went there.
Yeah. They've been through them all. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, what was that, Sam? Sorry? Wentz started for
Carson Wentz.
That's what I'm saying. George, Daniel Jones is starting week 1, man. Just put it down right now. That's what's happening.
It is a new owner. Remember, Robert Ursay passed, so it is a new owner. If that changes things a little bit. It doesn't matter. They're not going anywhere.
But it matters for fantasy. Maybe we can identify like the 8th quarterback on the Colts. All right, let's go to the Houston Texans here. They have a major issue at the running back position to start the season. So you see our graphic there. It says C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon. But I'm not willing to put an X on Joe Mixon, but I definitely would put one line there. I mean, it doesn't look like this guy's ready for the season. So is it really Nick Chubb? Is that the direction we're going here? Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, they really don't have anything great at tight end. Collins, to me, at wide receiver 7, may be the one to target. I thought he was so good 2 years ago, and I know he had some injury issues last year and missed time. I think there's some bounce back here for Houston. They're just one of those teams that flies under the radar. But running back very much in question because the reliable one appears to be Chubb at this point.
Yeah, and that's a little scary. I wish the best for Nick Chubb, right? He's had a couple of major injuries now. He'll never be that same player again. My biggest problem here is no matter what you think Stroud is going to rebound or not, he wasn't very good last year, but hey, fine. Maybe he comes back. Craig, that offensive line is not good. It was putrid last year, and they traded Tunsil to Washington here, so it certainly hasn't gotten better here. I have all sorts of doubts here. I mean, they have plenty of talent here. Collins, Higgins, they drafted Tank Dell if he's ready to play here. They should be able to throw the football up and down the field. But if he's got no time to throw, I think he's going to end up being that guy who sees the rush when he should be seeing it. He's going to be looking for it, waiting to get hit, rather than looking down the field, looking for his open wide receivers here. So I have lots of worries about Houston. I don't think they're a playoff team, with the exception of they play in the AFC South. And no one's a playoff team. Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee, none of them are very good teams here. So they play in the right division here, but I worry about this offense quite a bit. What I'm trying to say is Stroud, he'll be drafted probably a top 10 quarterback, but I don't want him. Collins I love, but I would prefer all the other top wide receivers over him here. He'll have big games here, but I think it's going to be very inconsistent because that offensive line is not going to hold up versus better pass rushing teams.
Yeah, and they've sort of shuttled through the Hopkins and Tank Dells and a number of different wide receivers that just simply haven't worked out next to Collins. And we'll see if one of the 2 players emerges. If Stroud has a big year, then one of the other wide receivers on Houston could potentially become an impact player. Coming up next, Trevor Lawrence was thought to be the biggest impact player in the NFL. Man, has that changed? Does getting Travis Hunter improve his stock for the season? We'll dive into the Jacksonville Jaguars next on Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shador's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? Second in the Open Championship, fourth, like plays great in majors, almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat wrestling style. He didn't just win, he murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. Like, we now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth of the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it, like I do. Like, sometimes I get caught up in the Padres of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back. Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. ESPN Field Yates coming up soon to talk about a very special promotion that he has where you can compete against him, and also gives us a look at some sleepers in fantasy football. But first, George and I preview the Jacksonville Jaguars getting ready to play their first preseason game this weekend. They made a lot of news in the offseason by moving up to trade for Travis Hunter, who, of course, was so phenomenal at the University of Colorado. He is going to be their wide receiver 2. But will he be on your fantasy team this season? Trevor Lawrence is back at quarterback. Do you believe? I don't know how many years we got to do this. We're going to try again this year. Travis Etienne at running back. Another one, do you believe? Tank Bigsby was so good for a very short period of time last year, and then things didn't go as well as we thought. Brian Thomas was the big star on this team, George. He was fantastic. So I have no doubt that he's going to have a big year. But I mean, all across the board, George, I got to tell you, this is why I'm happy I'm sitting with you here, because I would have bet heavily on Trevor Lawrence being a superstar in the NFL, man. He was so good in college and so good in the big games, too. I never thought for a second that we would be talking about him as QB 21, really, in fantasy football. I get it. It's legit. I just didn't think we would get here.
I'm with you. All right, it's a surprise. He gets a little bit of a pass for the coaching that happened earlier in his career, right? Without going into that, we know that wasn't very good, Mr. Urban Meyer there. So hopefully he figures it out. That being said, we talk about Brian Thomas and how good he was. Remember, Craig, for the most part, he put all those numbers up with Mac Jones. All right, Lawrence was out, right? He got hurt last year, so I'm not so sure. Listen. It's not Thomas. I think Thomas is great. But I don't know if Lawrence is going to have that same kind of chemistry with Thomas that Mac Jones had. Mac Jones had only eyes, wherever he was going to throw the ball to Brian Thomas no matter where he was. And I don't blame Mac Jones for doing that. All right, he was that good here. And I don't know what Travis Hunter takes away. All right, we know he's got the PR. Everyone's talking about Travis Hunter. And I think he is going to start at wide receiver. So defenses are going to pay attention to him. But you already said the running game, nothing special. Etienne and Bigsby, it's an average running game. Tight end, Strange. I kind of have hope for him, but he's a tight end too, and a mid-range tight end too at that. Probably nothing special there. So a lot of the focus is going to be on Lawrence and the passing game. Can Lawrence take that next step? If he can, well, then I think there's more than enough here for everybody. I think, once again, Tonta could eat here. I think Thomas will eat here. And the running game will be beneficiaries because, once again, teams are going to focus on the passing game, not the run game. So they're not going to see 8-man boxes here. So I'm curious about this offense, but it's all about Lawrence. He needs to take that next step. If he's that inconsistent player he was, and remember, fantasy-wise, he can run too. He can add you 3-4 points a game with the running ability here. But if he can't take that next step, this is all for naught. It won't matter.
Yeah, one name you did bring up there that we did not show on the graphic that I am in agreement with you there. I don't think that Brenton Strange by any means is a tight end one being drafted going into the season, but based on the usage that Lawrence has had with previous tight ends and them gone, I agree with you. I think there's a chance that he could be peeking in on a possible tight end one. Tennessee Titans have the basically the top quarterback coming out of college, and I think he's going to be phenomenal. I know that there's a difference of opinion with Cam Ward. I saw him play at the University of Miami, living in South Florida. I think eventually he's going to be great. I don't know if it's going to be this year. Tony Pollard is back at running back, and then Tajay Spears is there as well. He's back again. Calvin Ridley, who came on at the end of the year, certainly could make some more noise with a better quarterback like Cam Ward, and Chigo Okonkwo is a back-end tight end in fantasy. George, I think Cam Ward's getting a little bit of a bad rap. People think he's going to need some development time. Certainly that is the case with every quarterback in the NFL, but I do think eventually Cam Ward is going to dive in somewhere into the top 15 quarterbacks. Right now he's being drafted as QB 22.
Well, let's admit, Tennessee's a work in progress. All right, Cam Ward's not going to fix this team. Even if he's really good right out of the gate, he's not going to fix this team in one shot. He's not. He's a quarterback 3. Keeper league, maybe he goes a little earlier because, hey, you can keep him for next year, the year after, whatever it might be, and you see how he develops. Tony Pollard's a nice running back, but he's a running back 2, and probably a mid-range one at that. The receivers are all they're not castrated, right? Calvin Ridley's a wide receiver 2, but he's their wide receiver 1. Lockett's a wide receiver 3, but he's their wide receiver 2. They're just off one. Okonkwo has some big gains, but he's a tight end 2 again. So it's a work in progress here. Whether or not you believe in Cam Ward, in my mind, doesn't matter. It's a work in progress. It's still likely a best case scenario, a bottom quarter NFL team, so bottom 8, and I think they're probably worse than that.
Yeah, I would tell you that you'd be very surprised to take a look and see that Calvin Ridley last year, after a slow start, had over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns and averaged almost 16 yards per catch. Ridley is the wide receiver 30 this season, probably could be a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team. Field Yates from ESPN joins us right after the break.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? 2nd in the Open Championship, 4th, plays great in majors, almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat, wrestling style. He didn't just win, he murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. We now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth of the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it, I do. Sometimes I get caught up in the Padres of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
And welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid. Great to have Field Yates from ESPN, of course, for fantasy football purposes. Also covers the NFL draft, does a great job, and going to jump on with us to talk some fantasy football ahead of fantasy football draft season, August and September. Hey, Field, great to have you here on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's start off with the news of the week, I think, in fantasy and maybe how it relates to it. You know, injuries are never anything that we want to see this time of the year. I do want to start off with the Rams here with this news that came down earlier in the week on Matthew Stafford. It seems like that back injury or discomfort has kind of popped up again. And, you know, different times throughout the season's field, he's missed some time. I know the Rams are saying the right things right now, but we're in the middle of draft season here. What do you make of this latest report?
Yeah, so it kind of reminds me of the old adage that I've never met someone who used to have a bad back, right? It's people that just have a bad back in perpetuity. I'm not quite at the panic level here yet with Matthew Stafford. The Rams, to their credit, Sean McVay especially, because he's the one that's in front of the microphone most often, are remarkably candid about injuries. And I think that the transparency really helps us who are doing drafts. So it's not that Stafford himself is dependent or is the kind of guy that is going to be in your fantasy lineups in a single quarterback league. It's the guys who are dependent upon Stafford who are wondering about, most specifically Puka Nacua and also Devontae Adams, who are two of the top 12 to 14 wide receivers this year. I have not noticed any changes in draft trends yet, but what I would say about this situation as we proceed forward during training camp is let's imagine a world in which the updates stay relatively stagnant for another week or two, where it's like making progress, but not 100% yet. It's a great tiebreaker, right? If you're on the clock and you're deciding between Puka Nacua and CeeDee Lamb or Puka Nacua and Malik Neighbors, and you say to yourself, I'm just a little too worried about the Matthew Stafford situation, you break the tie with that. But it's not going to I'm not going to see Puka Nacua fall dramatically in drafts, and I'm not going to avoid Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, because if Stafford is ready for week one, which it seems like that is the plan against the Houston Texans, then he should have, those two guys, I should say, should have just incredible seasons. Puka had 98 targets in the 9 games last year, when you exclude one where he got hurt early and 2 where he punched somebody early, which was a good reminder not to punch people on the football field.
Right, very much so. The Rams also made news this week, and it's a good transition to running backs as they signed Kyren Williams to a contract extension, which does seem to be the common thread in terms of finances for running backs. Look, I don't know that we're ever going to get the huge deals anymore, but it seems like we're trending back to actually paying these guys again. He gets $23 million guaranteed, coming off a fantastic season. What do you make of sort of him going into this year as well? This is kind of going to be one of those that's tough to project.
Well, you know what's interesting is I think that fantasy football is pretty devoid of players that are sort of boring and relatively straightforward projections, and Kyren might be one of them. He should, as long as he's on the field, he'll be one of the, probably 5 most likely players to lead the NFL in touches. He's going to get 20-ish carries a game. He's going to get most of the Rams' goal line work. He just will not be heavily involved in the passing game. The Rams rely on their wide receivers so much that they tend to, saturate the targets there. So Kyren, to me, is like a top 12-ish running back this year, a guy who's held up really well over the past few years. But the ceiling on him is different than some of the guys that you're talking about ahead of him, like a Bucky Irving or a Chase Brown, who, because of their passing game involvement, might have a slightly higher ceiling.
Yeah, PPR leagues very specifically. And getting to running backs, and here is the top 5 running backs over on ESPN projected in terms of fantasy points. We have Barkley at 335, or Robinson at 335, Barkley at 325, Jahmyr Gibbs 317, McCaffrey 322, and then the rookie Ashton Genty at 297. It does seem like, again, we've seen some pullback here, back to the running backs again being taken in the first round for a few years. So many injuries, so many folks saying no more. It does feel like we're going to get a number of them again this year.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's an important position to attack early in drafts because while we're talking about some good high-end options, it's pretty pedestrian once you get through about 25 or so running backs. And so you got to be so much more mindful that the cliff does take place in your draft at running back, much more so than it does at wide receiver, where there are 40, 45 options that you could talk yourself into having pretty good seasons this year. So draft them running backs early. There's a lot of value in those players.
Field, how can people compete against you in fantasy football this year? I know that there's a great game you have going and some prizes are available as well. Where can they go for more information on that?
Yes, head on over to redbaron.com/takethefield, and they have the opportunity for one person to score a win, which unlocks an opportunity to invite 8 friends to play a league against me. So there's 10 of us in total. We're going to play highly competitive fantasy football league, do a draft together later on this month, have an absolute blast. And there is a pool of cash available for those that are able to upend me in this league. I am not planning on that, but I suppose the possibility does exist of people taking me down in this league. So we'll have a lot of fun there. Great opportunity to pair 2 things that I love, Red Baron Pizza and fantasy football.
And right now, you can go online and get yourself started right now and play against Field in those fantasy football leagues. Should be a really good opportunity to do so. Field, before we wrap it up here, real quick, about 30 seconds, your favorite time to draft your team in fantasy is when? August something, September something, July something, when?
Monday night, Labor Day weekend. 3 days before kickoff on Thursday night football. We have a lot of information there, a lot less risk in drafting as opposed to, early to mid-August. Give me Monday of Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity to do so. I actually didn't realize we got a couple more minutes left. I'm going to take advantage of this with Field. All right, so you have, let's say hypothetically, a top pick in your fantasy football draft this year. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my dynasty league and what I'm rooting for, and then you can tell me if this is the right strategy. I am back on because I have McCaffrey, Field at such a high price. I could not let go of him in my dynasty league this year. He is going to be the most polarizing figure going into fantasy football this season. Are you someone in any of these early drafts or in any of the future drafts or even on Labor Day night that you would just take that shot once again on McCaffrey?
I would, and I would tell people this is for those that are saying there's no way that guy crushed me last year, it's your fantasy team. Do as you choose. But what I feel is that the risk is already offset a little bit because you're not taking him at pick 1 overall. You're taking him at pick 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 or 12, depending on the league size and how aggressive your league mates are. If you were guaranteed 17 games of Christian McCaffrey, which of course we are not, but there's no guarantee any player plays all 17 games this season, he will be an easy number 1 overall pick. I get it. He's been hurt a lot. Maybe some people think he's brittle. I think he's been unlucky. He's not going number 1 overall, but I think definitely a first-round pick. And I'm willing to live with going down on the Christian McCaffrey ship once again this season.
And Field, your player that you will be drafting the most from round 1 through 17 this season, who will be on most of your teams this year?
We did a project on ESPN back in May and June. We call it the Mock Draft Project. So I got some data on this. Amongst the players that I targeted the most over like 28 or 30 drafts were George Kittle and Rome Odunze. Kittle, who I think is the 3rd tight end this year, but a really good cost. And then Rome Odunze, who I think has a chance to be, he's a very trendy breakout pick going into year 2 in what should be a much improved Chicago Bears offense.
Great stuff, Field. Thanks again. Good luck in all of your leagues this year. We'll catch you this year on ESPN Talking Fantasy Football. Thanks again. And thanks again to Field Yates from ESPN for appearing with us here on Fantasy Sports Today on SportsGrid. All right, coming up next, George and I play a little buy or sell. We'll hit on Cam Ward, Jonathan Taylor, Nico Collins. It's our AFC South buy or sell, and it is next here on Fantasy Sports Today.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? Second in the Open Championship, fourth, like plays great in majors, almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat, wrestling style. He didn't just win; he murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. Like, we now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth of the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it, like I do. Like, sometimes I get caught up in the Padres of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Don't forget, you can catch George and I all throughout the fantasy football season, draft season, regular season, and of course the fantasy football playoffs. But before we get out of here, we've talked a ton about the AFC South. Let's take it even further and ask some questions about some of the key contributors this season, specifically Cam Ward, Jonathan Taylor, Nico Collins, and Travis. Those are our subjects. This is buy or sell. All right, George, Tennessee Titans going to be starting a rookie quarterback week 1. I don't think there's any question about that. Doesn't seem like there's any tea leaves that are reading anything else except for Cam Ward starting for the Titans. Buy or sell here, George? Good one. Cam Ward will win Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2025. Remember, as good as Cam Ward is, there was some discussion that, hey, maybe some other rookies better than him in the draft at the top 10, top 15. It's just that, of course, best quarterback usually wins and goes number 1. You going to buy or sell Cam Ward winning Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Well, you mentioned, right? Quarterback has the advantage. He's going to touch the ball every play, right? He is probably the best rookie quarterback coming in, so he has that advantage here. When we phrase it like this, by the way, and this has nothing to do with Cam Ward, I'm always going to take the field. You know, Cam Ward or everybody else, well, I'll take a chance at somebody else. So I'm gonna say no on Cam Ward, that he won't win it. I don't think it'll be another quarterback if I'm going to go with somebody. Maybe it'll be Ashton Genty, who I know didn't have the greatest debut for the Raiders last night, but hey, who cares? On preseason 1. Something we didn't talk about, it could be Marion Hampton, running back from the Chargers, who I was very high on, but now they lost their best offensive lineman, is Rashawn Slater, tore the patella tendon. He's done for the year. Brutal loss. Just a brutal loss. That could certainly affect Hampton there, and Herbert and the rest of them, by the way, as well here. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to sell this. I will take the field here. Like I said, Hunter is going to be big in this as well. We're going to talk about him during this segment as well. If he has a good receiving year, he's going to get a lot of publicity there.
Yeah, normally I think, George, you're spot on with taking the field, but I think in this case, it's not the thing to do because the guy was the number 1 overall pick starting from day 1, and he is a quarterback in the National Football League. And as much as I love Genty, and I do love McMillan as well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of other options out there. I am going to buy this. I do think that Ward, as the season goes on, I kind of feel like Ward's season this year is going to be like Bo Nix's season last year. I think it's going to be shaky to start. The Broncos showed a lot of faith in him. They kept giving him the ball. The only difference is Cam Ward doesn't run a ton. So maybe not quite the Knicks rushing season, but I do think at the end of the year, this is one of those rare times where I don't want the field. I want Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick in the draft, so I will buy. All right, let's go to running back. Remember, George, just a few years ago, Jonathan Taylor was the number 1 overall player taken in fantasy football. And now it's just a matter of where you take him as far as the other running backs are concerned. Certainly not number 1 or number 2, but will Jonathan Taylor finish the season as a top 10 guy? Here you go. Jonathan Taylor will finish this season as a top, we'll even narrow it for you, George, 7 fantasy running back. Top 7 fantasy running back. Buy or sell?
Well, for the Colts' sake, he better. Because if he does, I mean, the season didn't go well at all. You and I already have major question marks about their quarterback situation. We don't love the wide receivers. We do love Warren, but they need Taylor. They need him to get a lot of 2nd and 4s, right? Make it easy on the quarterbacks there. I'm a Taylor believer. I am, but I said it earlier, and I truly believe this. He's going to face a lot of 8-man boxes because if I'm defensive coordinator, he's not beating me. Hey, Jones can beat me, Richardson can beat me, fine. But I am not letting the obvious choice beat me. I'm taking Taylor away here. That being said, I have number 8 on my board right now. He stays healthy, he'll be top 7 because the top 8 aren't going to stay healthy, right? But I have Robinson, Gibbs, Barkley, Genty, McCaffrey ahead of him as well. I'm sort of having him in there. Derrick Henry, I have him also ahead. Fantasy-wise, a lot of touchdowns coming there. So I have him right after that. With a chain there, maybe you want to put Bucky Irving, guys like that here. But I'm going to buy this. I'm going to say yes if he can stay healthy. But then again, I can say that for every running back I just named. If they stay healthy, they'll be top 7.
Yeah, I'm going to sell. I think in touchdown-dependent leagues where a lot of the others don't matter, I think he probably gets it. But George, you said it best, man. Like the Colts quarterbacking situation has got to be going into the season bottom 2. I mean, bottom 3? I mean, this is kind of bad. I mean, maybe Cleveland is worse. Maybe the Saints are worse. Maybe. But I just have no faith whatsoever in the Colts offense. So you're right. The box is going to be stacked. He'll still get his loads of touchdowns. The other thing, too, George, I keep it real. I like Taylor. He's missed time, man, the last few years. And so saying that he would be one of the guys to play 16 or 17 games to me would be foolish. I'm going to sell. I think Taylor has seen his days. I still think he's a starter. I just don't think he's one of the top guys. Let's go to Nico Collins of the Houston Texans, who's certainly being drafted right now, George, as if he had the season that he had 2 years ago, arguably a league winner in fantasy. Buy or sell? Nico Collins is being overdrafted as wide receiver 7.
I think other than Jamar Chase, and probably put CeeDee Lamb in here as well, you can make an argument against every other wide receiver. You want to play negative net here, right? Jefferson's got McCarthy there. Nakua, we don't know what Stafford's going to be like there. Now, Neighbors, of course, the Giants' offense isn't all that great. Amon St. Brown, not really that guy. There's so many weapons there. Is really the problem for St. Brown that they can choose whoever they want to go to there. Brian Thomas, but I don't know what he's going to do with Trevor Lawrence, all the numbers with Mac Jones. You can play this game over and over again. Bottom line is Nico Collins is really good. Stroud is going to look his way. You and I don't trust the running game. All right. We just said it. Mixon, okay. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. Nick Chubb might be your number 1, but his best days are way behind him. If the offensive line can be decent, they're going to have to throw the football and throw it a bunch, and that's going to be Nico Collins here. I'm going to sell this. I don't think he's being overdrafted. I think he'll finish right around top 5, top 6, right where he should be, right where he's being drafted. I think is correct.
I agree. I'm going to also sell this. I like Collins a lot, and I think it's smart to look at what he did 2 years ago because there's really nobody with him. And just to say that because you don't have a wide receiver 2, you get double coverage. I mean, do teams not cover Jamar Chase? Somehow the guy still scores touchdowns. There are other players. Devontae Adams for years, the same thing. So for me, I'm going to sell as well. All right, we got 30 seconds, George. Travis Hunter will play offense and defense in more than 7 games this season. Buy or sell?
Absolutely. The question is not if he's going to play both, it's how much he's going to play both. He'll absolutely play more than 7 games on offense and defense. The question is what percentage.
Why would they trade up to take this player so high to play him at one position? Come on. Don't be ridiculous. This is a buy. Buy. Hit that green button. Coming up next, we will wrap it up with the SportsGrid 60. So stay on the grid. We'll be right back.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? Second in the Open Championship. Fourth, plays great in majors. Almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat wrestling style. He didn't just win. He murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. We now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth in the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it. I do. Sometimes I get caught up in the Padres of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. If you're thinking of drafting a Jaguars running back, I got 4 for you. How about this from Dan Graziano, covers the NFL. Jaguars are going to keep 4 running backs. Travis Etienne, he's the screen game guy. Tank Bigsby, he's going to pound it and get the short yardage. Bayshul Tootin, he's the home run threat. And then you may remember LaQuint Allen. He was a stud at Syracuse. He was really good, by the way. He is the 3rd down back. One of those situations, George, that I don't think stays the whole season. So while I think the thought is good, it's probably Bigsby or nothing for me. What do you think?
I think Bigsby's the guy you want. Short yards, all you need to know there, right? That's the touchdown guy. All right, so we'll take Bigsby. I am kind of intrigued by Tootin. Listen, I wouldn't draft him any earlier than double-digit rounds, but I think, once again, he could be an interesting flyer late in your draft to see if he becomes the guy. If he hits a home run or two, he's going to be that guy. And once again, Bigsby was good to be a short yardage guy. We can do both. So like I said, I'd be interested in Tootin later on, rounds 11, round 12. A flyer, mud against the wall. A guy, hey, if it's not working out, then when the bye week start in week 4, hey, he's the guy you release and move on to replace the guy who's out on bye.
Yeah, I like Allen a little bit there, but, again, very, very late pick. Hard to believe any of this stuff. George, will Shador Sanders starting for the Browns be the single biggest story of the week in the NFL? I say yes. I think this is it.
Assuming there's not another major injury, you're probably right. Or unless Travis Hunter picks off a ball while he's playing defense too, that would be a story. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably not watching preseason football. Well, I do want to see Sanders. All right, because I want to see what he looks like here. All right, I want to see it. I think he has to. Listen, Flacco's not the answer. Pickett's not the answer. Gabriel's not the answer. It's Sanders, or you're picking another quarterback next year in the draft. All right, so they need to know. They need to know if Sanders is the guy. Did they get a gift by having him in the 5th round here? I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But yeah, I want to see what Sanders is going to do.
Yeah, me too. One of the more intriguing things for me is to see how well he plays and maybe even gets a shot at the regular season too. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see us also have 60 seconds of commentary. We'll start off with George, and then we'll get to me. It's time now for the Sports Grid at 60.
I just realized we've almost done a full show and we have not mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, which just can't happen. All right, just can't happen. all right, the Micah Parsons thing, and I've been talking about this with Gabe on Rage or in Game Live with Wetzel, whatever it might be. And I fully believed, listen, this is what Jerry Jones does, right? He did it with Zach Martin. He did it with Dak Prescott. He did it with CeeDee Lamb. He loves the PR of all this stuff. Doesn't care about it's negative or positive. To him, any PR is good PR. I am starting to wonder now. He lost all those contract battles, right? Yeah, he got the PR, but he had to pay top price for them. Craig, I'm starting to wonder if he wants to win one. And that's what's going on with Mike. And he actually might let this go down where Micah misses a game or two. It doesn't make any sense to me. Mike is one of the best defensive players in the game. But, Jerry, his logic, it doesn't make any sense. All right. Cowboys aren't going to have a great season anyway, with or without Micah. That's probably true. With them, maybe they win 9 games with him. Without him, you're talking 6. So I guess there's an argument to be made there. But if you're not going to trade him and you're not going to pay him, what are you going to do? Have him just play out on his regular contract and then franchise him the next 2 years? Doesn't make any sense here. But then against Jerry Jones, I don't know what he's going to do here. But it's starting to come to my mind that he might try and win this contract, Craig. And this may go on a lot longer than I would have expected. I would have thought August 20th. He'll be signed by August 20th. That's what Jerry does. And now I'm starting to wonder if Jerry wants to drag this down as long as possible and try and win one of these contract stalemates.
My 33rd year in the same fantasy football home league. Of course, some of the names have changed and people come and go, but this is year 33. And I got the email this week, guys and girls, that for the first time, the league that I'm in has decided to go away from kickers. That's it. It's the end of an era. It was voted on by everybody in the league. There really weren't even a lot of points to make at this point. Just so much luck involved. Do we really want to have kickers on the team? Do we really want to have to use transactions and pick up backup kickers? There was a little piece of me who still wanted to see the kickers play and still thinking there is some sort of strategy to it, but I couldn't really make the claim. So end of an era. Farewell kickers in my fantasy football league. George, farewell to you. Hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you back here for Fantasy Sports Today next week.
Absolutely. And by the way, I think your league did the right thing. I've tried to do the same thing in my home league, which is year 37, but I can't get rid of him. It always gets voted down every year.
All right. Well, we'll vote Sam Yarnall, our producer. We'll vote him out too. He's going to leave for the day. That'll do it for our show. For George, I'm Craig. Enjoy the rest of your weekend here.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperformed somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where you draft a quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's becoming just harder in general to do business from a money standpoint in general, let alone the competition. So yeah, Betfred closing up shop will be gone by tomorrow. We'll see if any sportsbook fills this void. It'll mean that there's a license up for grabs in Pennsylvania, which is one of the biggest states for sports betting and is home to a lot of other operators. At this point, we're getting to a time when no one's rushing into the market.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I was that confused trying to figure out why Cameron Young isn't as good as he should be, because we've seen all the flashes. Like at some point of his career, he's been elite at something. Like he's been elite at putting this year. He's been an elite iron player. He's been an elite driver of the golf ball. So check out this chart I had to get.
We got a chart.
Look at this chart that I had to come up with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.